I'm going to do this in 5 minutes. I'm going to do this in 5 minutes. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our study in the book of Ezra. I hope it's as nice where you are as where I am. It's cloudy out today, but there's this nice breeze coming through the window. I have the window open in front of me, and it feels really good, probably in like the 60s Fahrenheit-wise. So I hope you're also having nice weather wherever you are. Thanks for joining me for our Ezra 6 study. It's an exciting day today because we're going to finish the temple. Let's go ahead and begin by discussing our timeline. And by the way, you can download our PDF on our website. There's a link down in the description. Let's run through these dates really quickly. 536 BC, rebuilding of the foundation of the temple. 536 to 530 BC, the adversaries of the Jews oppose the rebuilding of the temple. The next 10 years, 530 to 520, work on the temple stops by decree of Artaxerxes, king of Persia. In 520, work on the temple resumes, and today, 516, work on the temple is completed. So it only took about 20 years to finish it up. Let's now talk about our key characters here. First of all, we have the captives of Judah. These are the exiles who returned from 70 years of Babylonian captivity. They returned to the promised land to rebuild Jerusalem and the temple. They become known as the Jews. We have Darius. Darius is the king of Persia from 522 to 486 BC. And then we have a guy named Tattenai. Tattenai is the governor of the province beyond the river. He questioned the Jews about whether they really had authority, royal authority, to rebuild the temple. In the last chapter, we talked about Tattenai sending a letter to King Darius. And so really here we're going to see Darius' response in this chapter. So we're picking up in the middle of a storyline. So if you haven't done chapter 5 yet, you might want to go back and do that one first. For our where section today, we are once again going to highlight the city of Jerusalem, which you're going to be familiar with if you've been studying. That's where the temple is being rebuilt. And we have a new city today. That is the city of Ecbatana. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. This is a city in the province of Media. You will see it on the map over towards the top right side. Historical records were kept in the city, historical records for the kingdom of Persia, and that's going to be important in the response of Darius back to Tattenai in this letter. As we get into chapter 6, as I mentioned, this is a follow-up to chapter 5. In the end of chapter 5, Tattenai sends this letter to King Darius asking whether or not the Jews really had royal authority to rebuild the temple. Now we're going to get a response from Darius to Tattenai in chapter 6. We have 18 verses total. The first 5 are our first section. The archives are searched for Cyrus's decree. So evidently, King Darius didn't know whether Cyrus had given the Jews permission to rebuild the temple. When King Darius receives this letter from Tattenai, he orders his men to make a search of the royal archives to figure out whether Cyrus actually decreed the temple to be rebuilt. A scroll was found in this place called Ecbatana with the following record, and I'll just read it from the text. In the first year of Cyrus the king issued a decree concerning the house of God at Jerusalem. Let the house be rebuilt, the place where sacrifices were offered, and let its foundations be retained. Its height shall be 60 cubits, and its breadth 60 cubits, with 3 layers of great stones and 1 layer of timber. Let the cost be paid from the royal treasury. Okay, so now Darius has his answer. That takes us into section number 2, verses 6 through 12. Darius orders the temple rebuilding to continue. So Darius ordered Tattenai, Shethar-Bozenai, and all other of their associates to stay away from the Jews. They were not to hinder them. They were not to interfere in the building of the temple at all. Sorry, there's a cat staring at me out the window, and I was slightly distracted. In a turn of events, actually, not only are they not to interfere, but Darius ordered them to give the Jews all the money that they needed in order to finish this construction project. The price of the temple was to be paid for out of the royal revenue, out of the tax money that was collected by Tattenai and his local government. Additionally, Tattenai was to provide the Jews with all of the bulls, rams, sheep, wheat, salt, and wine and oil that the priests needed to offer sacrifices at the temple. Finally, Darius decreed that any man who opposed his orders would be impaled. So, these ancient kings, they weren't messing around. So God took these people who were trying to hinder the Jews from working, and he actually turns the situation around. They end up helping the Jews. This takes us to our third and final section, verses 13 through 18. The temple is completed and the Passover is celebrated. Tattenai, to his credit, did as Darius ordered him, and the Jews flourished with the support of their prophets, Haggai and Zechariah. The temple was finally completed in the 6th year of Darius of Persia. All the Jews celebrated, and they got together to dedicate the building, offering sacrifices at the dedication, 100 bulls, 200 rams, 400 lambs, 12 goats as a sin offering for the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, that's a lot of animals. but it's nothing in comparison to what Solomon offered when the first temple was dedicated to the Lord. That was quite something. The priests and the Levites prepared themselves now to work in the temple according to the laws of God. And on the 14th day of the first month, they celebrated the Passover, which was one of the sacred days that they were supposed to keep according to God's law that he gave to Moses. After Passover, they kept the Feast of Unleavened Bread for the appointed 7 days. So that is our summary of Ezra chapter 6. I don't know if we made it through in 5 minutes, but doing my best. There's just so much information to cover there. Let's talk about our application now before we finish up. The Jews had a decree from the king and a command from their God to build, right? To go back and rebuild Jerusalem, rebuild the temple. In completing that order, though, what we find across the last couple chapters is they encountered all kinds of delays, fears, enemies, roadblocks that ended up taking them 20 years to get the thing built. For application, we have a decree from our king and a command from our God to build, not a temple, but to build his kingdom. And just like in the case of the Jews, completing that order isn't going to be easy. It's easy to get slowed down, to stop building because of our fears, difficult people, and the delays from all the roadblocks that we might encounter. One of the great challenges of the Christian life is to keep building, no matter how much Satan is trying to slow us down and how much the people serving Satan are trying to slow us down. Don't get paralyzed by challenges in the present or by potential, maybe hypothetical challenges that you might foresee coming at you in the future. God is going to walk you through all of those events. The job that he is giving you to do in the present is to build. So let's be diligent in fulfilling that command and that order.